reason that the AP was barred, which they said was because they're not using the phrase Gulf of America, they're using Gulf of Mexico in line with their standards. And so the question here is this setting a precedent that this White House will retaliate against reporters who don't use the language that you guys believe reporters should use? And how does that align with the First Amendment commitment that you were just talking about?
I was very upfront in my briefing on day one that if we feel that there are lies being pushed by outlets in this room, we are going to hold those lies accountable.
This should have been done by Biden years ago. This should have never been allowed to happen. I know he's a friend of yours.
But couldn't Putin just withdraw his
He's a friend of
today?
CNN. That's why nobody watches CNN anymore.
Who advised the president on the legality of telling government agencies that they don't have to spend money that was already appropriated by Congress?
Well, as the OMB memo states, this is certainly within the confines of the law. So White House counsel's office believes that this is within the president's power to do it, and therefore he's doing it.
Okay, so they disagree with lawmakers who say that they don't have the power to freeze this funding.
Again, I would point you to the language in the memo that clearly states this is within the law.
Karoline Leavitt has once again gone head-to-head with CNN's Kaitlan Collins. Only this time, the clash was nothing short of explosive. The two have been sparring ever since Leavitt stepped into her role as White House press secretary, trading verbal jabs and heated exchanges where Leavitt almost always walks away the clear winner. But their latest showdown was so fierce, so lopsided, that many are now openly questioning how Collins still holds onto her job. What exactly did Leavitt say that left Collins stammering and scrambling on live TV? And could this moment be the breaking point for Collins's credibility? One thing is certain. This battle was a spectacle you didn't want to miss. For weeks, Leavitt and Collins have lit up press briefings with their infamous back and forths, sparking more fireworks than a 4th of July finale. But this latest clash didn't just cause a stir, it triggered a full-blown media meltdown, the kind that deserves its own disaster relief fund. It all began when the ever-intrepid Collins thought she had Leavitt cornered with a pointed question.
White House officials made the decision to bar the AP reporter from the Oval Office and the diplomatic reception room last night.
Well, first of all, let me just set the record straight. It is a privilege to cover this White House. It's a privilege to be the White House press secretary. And nobody has the right to go into the Oval Office and ask the President of the United States questions. That's an invitation that is given. And there are hundreds of outlets on this campus, many of you in this room who don't have the privilege of being part of that pool every single day and getting to ask the President questions. We reserve the right to decide who gets to go into the Oval Office, and you all have credentials to be here, including the Associated Press, who is in this briefing room today.
Now, at first glance, the question might have seemed simple, even harmless. But don't be fooled. It was a setup, a trap, a desperate swing at a gotcha moment. Kaitlan Collins wasn't just asking, she was ambushing. She wanted that viral clip, the one where she could expose a supposed contradiction in the Leavitt-Trump administration. With her smug grin and confident posture, Collins looked certain she had this in the bag. But here's the problem. Karoline Leavitt isn't some rookie spokesperson stumbling through talking points. She's a political brawler. She saw the trap coming a mile away, and instead of walking into it, she flipped the script. Not only did Leavitt dodge the setup, she turned it back on Collins so hard that the CNN journalist was left scrambling. By declaring that access to the Oval Office isn't some entitlement for reporters, Leavitt didn't just swat away Collins's question. She delivered a MIC drop moment. It was a masterclass in control, flipping the entire narrative before Collins even realized what hit her. Now, listen carefully to this clip. I'll break down my thoughts right after.
Isn't it retaliatory in nature is the argument, because the reason that the AP was barred, which they said was because they're not using the phrase Gulf of America, they're using Gulf of Mexico in line with their standards. And so the question here is this setting a precedent that this White House will retaliate against reporters who don't use the language that you guys believe reporters should use? And how does that align with the First Amendment commitment that you were just talking about?
I was very upfront in my briefing on day one that if we feel that there are lies being pushed by outlets in this room, we are going to hold those lies accountable. And it is a fact that the body of water off the coast of Louisiana is called the Gulf of America. And I'm not sure why news outlets don't want to call it that, but that is what it is.
Denied her gotcha moment, Kaitlan Collins dropped the act and revealed her hand. The entire setup had been about one thing: the Associated Press's so-called ban from the Oval Office. Her goal? To paint the Trump administration as hypocrites, loud defenders of the First Amendment who suddenly lost their nerve once in power. It was classic media spin, and Collins was convinced she had the perfect angle. But here's where it unraveled. Karoline Leavitt, always 10 steps ahead, wasn't about to let Collins seize the narrative. With a calm but razor-sharp takedown, she reminded everyone of her promise to hold the media accountable for lies, distortions, and outright propaganda. And accountability, she emphasized, meant that outlets like the AP, who had recklessly peddled misinformation, shouldn't expect automatic access to the most powerful office in the world. The message was crystal clear. Press freedom doesn't mean freedom from consequences. Just like that, Collins's big expose backfired into yet another self-inflicted disaster. But did Kaitlan learn her lesson? Not at all. In fact, here she is again, this time going toe-to-toe with the leader of the free world, Donald Trump.
You won the White House in part because of high inflation. If your tariffs make prices go up...
We haven't asked you to speak yet, please. Right?
Trump shut her down, not because she was pushy, but because she crossed the line into outright disrespect. It's his office, his rules. He decides who speaks and when. If he doesn't call on you, you don't get to hijack the moment. Simple as that. But instead of respecting the process like every other journalist in the room, Kaitlan tried to bulldoze her way through. Trump wasn't silencing the press. He was maintaining order and making sure other reporters had their chance to ask questions. The smartest move for Kaitlan? Wait her turn like a professional instead of throwing a tantrum for attention. But patience isn't exactly CNN's strong suit, and Trump wasn't finished with her yet. While fielding a question about Mitch McConnell, he took a swipe at Kaitlan that left no doubt about who was really in control.
Jr. as the next health secretary, citing conspiracy theories. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I feel sorry for Mitch. And I was one of the people that he wanted to go to the end and he wanted to stay leader. He's not equipped mentally. He wasn't equipped 10 years ago mentally, in my opinion. He'd let the Republican Party go to hell. If I didn't come along, the Republican Party wouldn't even exist right now. Mitch McConnell never really had it. He had an ability to raise money because of his position as leader, which anybody could do. You could do it even. And that's saying a lot.
Donald Trump knows how to deliver a roast. And this time, Kaitlan Collins was the target. With just a few sharp jabs, he left her scrambling, fumbling for a comeback that never came. Then came the knockout punch. Looking her dead in the eye, Trump told her she was just as incompetent as Mitch McConnell. Ouch. The room went silent for a split second before the weight of the insult sank in. Collins had walked in expecting to control the narrative, but instead she got publicly dismantled. This wasn't just a casual dig. It was a calculated, surgical strike. In one blow, Trump exposed her bias, her flimsy arguments, and her failed attempt at playing hardball. Trump wasn't simply shutting her down. He was reminding her, and the entire press corps, exactly who runs the show. And judging by Collins's stunned expression, the message landed loud and clear. But Trump wasn't finished yet.
Been done by Biden years ago. This should have never been allowed to happen. I know he's a friend of yours.
Couldn't Putin just withdraw his
He's a friend of CNN. That's why nobody watches CNN anymore.
Let's be honest. This isn't Trump's first rodeo with CNN. His clashes with the network go way back. And if there's one thing he's mastered, it's exposing their bias in real time. Remember Jim Acosta? The so-called journalist who built his brand on interrupting Trump and grandstanding during press briefings, until it finally cost him his White House credentials after one outburst too many. Now Kaitlan Collins is walking the same path. Same network, same tactics, same humiliating outcome. Trump has never shied away from calling out CNN's antics, and every encounter only highlights how desperate they are to trip him up. But time and time again, they fail, because while CNN is chasing gotcha moments, Trump is playing to win. And who could forget this famous showdown between Trump and Kaitlan?
When they went to the Capitol and they were breaking into the Capitol, smashing windows, injuring police officers, why did it take you 3 hours to tell them to go home?
I don't believe it did. Oh, let me pull it out. I have to pull it out. So if you look at, on January 5th, the day before, I said, please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful. Stay peaceful. This was the day before, and this was in the form of Twitter. Now use Truth Social. I think it's far superior, okay? I hope everybody's on Truth. If you look, January 6th, this is before 2:30. I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. This is right after, as it was happening. But what happened is they took it down. I don't know why. I think they took it down because it was so good. They didn't like it being up there. I am asking, and we didn't know until I got it back, because now I have 90 million people waiting for me to go back, but I'm on Truth, and I'm staying on Truth. Listen, I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. No violation. We want no violation. We want no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. That was at 2:30. That was very early.
I love that Trump is pulling out receipts and shoving them right in Kaitlan's face, proving her, and the entire woke media machine, dead wrong. For years, they've pushed the same tired narrative, that Trump incited his supporters to storm the Capitol and take down democracy. They painted him as a power-hungry tyrant, a dictator-in-waiting hell-bent on ruling Americans against their will, but here's the reality they don't want to admit. Trump did call for peace. He did tell his supporters to stand down and respect law enforcement. And now, with hard evidence on his side, he's dismantling the media's manufactured lies one by one. The same journalists who spent years smearing him are suddenly scrambling, twisting themselves into knots to spin yet another false narrative. But Trump's had enough of their games, and this time, he's calling them out publicly.
The question that investigators have, I think, is why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's
you
the
mind?
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to. You're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
They just wouldn't stop twisting the facts, even with Trump laying cold, hard evidence on the table. The receipts were there, undeniable. Did that stop the woke media machine? Of course not. For them it was never really about truth. It was about preserving a narrative. No matter how many lies it took. To the media mob, Trump could do no right. If he called for peace, they said he didn't mean it. If he condemned violence, it was too little, too late. If he defended himself, he was playing the victim. The aim wasn't honest reporting, it was shaping public perception. This is the same press corps that spent years amplifying unproven accusations, burying stories that didn't fit the script, and gaslighting the public into choosing fiction over fact. Now Trump is standing his ground and countering their version of events with irrefutable proof. They are panicking, because the more people see the truth, the less power the media holds. And that terrifies them. Meanwhile, Leavitt is still having a field day at the expense of Kaitlan and her woke colleagues.
The historic proposal for the United States to take over Gaza, announced by President Trump last night, underscores this commitment. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. President Trump is an outside-of-the-box thinker and a visionary leader who solves problems that many others, especially in this city, claim are unsolvable.
Yep, Leavitt is spot on. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over while expecting a different result. And if that's the case, the left and the woke media are completely off their rockers. For years, they've run the same tired playbook, setting traps, twisting words, ripping quotes out of context, all while convincing themselves this will finally be the moment Trump or his team crumbles. And every single time, utter disappointment. They learn, not a chance. Instead, they double down, recycle the same failed tactics, and somehow expect a different outcome. It's like watching a bad magician repeat the same trick, hoping the audience won't notice the wires. They hype up their big exposés, roll out the so-called bombshells, and just when they think they've got him, bam. Trump or Leavitt smacks them down with facts, logic, and an ironclad ability to handle media hysteria. At this point, it's not even a fair fight. It's like a toddler stepping into the ring with a heavyweight boxer, predictable, brutal, and over before it begins. But hey, let them keep trying. If history has shown us anything, it's that the left's only real talent, besides losing, is not realizing they are losing. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.